This is a CBS News report. I'm Margaret Brennan in New York. Special Counsel Robert Mueller is about to make his first statement since his report on the Russia investigation was released to the public. He will speak shortly at the Justice Department. The nearly two-year investigation ended in April and concluded there was no conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. Let's listen now.
2 years ago, the acting Attorney General asked me to serve as special counsel, and he created the special counsel's office. The appointment order directed the office to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. This included investigating any links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. Now, I have not spoken publicly during our investigation. I'm speaking out today because our investigation is complete. The Attorney General has made the report on our investigation largely public. We are formally closing the special counsel's office, and as well, I'm resigning from the Department of Justice to return to private life. I'll make a few remarks about the results of our work. But beyond these few remarks, it is important that the office's written work speak for itself. Let me begin where the appointment order begins, and that is interference in the 2016 presidential election. As alleged by the grand jury in an indictment, Russian intelligence officers who were part of the Russian military launched a concerted attack on our political system. The indictment alleges that they used sophisticated cyber techniques to hack into computers and networks used by the Clinton campaign. They stole private information and then released that information through fake online identities and through the organization WikiLeaks. The releases were designed and timed to interfere with our election and to damage a presidential candidate. And at the same time, as the grand jury alleged in a separate indictment, a private Russian entity engaged in a social media operation where Russian citizens posed as Americans in order to influence an election. These indictments contain allegations, and we are not commenting on the guilt or the innocence of any specific defendant. Every defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. The indictments allege, and the other activities in our report describe, efforts to interfere in our political system. They needed to be investigated and understood, and that is among the reasons why the Department of Justice established our office. That is also a reason we investigated efforts to obstruct the investigation. The matters we investigated were of paramount importance. It was critical for us to obtain full and accurate information from every person we questioned. When a subject of an investigation obstructs that investigation or lies to investigators, it strikes at the core of the government's effort to find the truth and hold wrongdoers accountable. Let me say a word about the report. The report has two parts, addressing the two main issues we were asked to investigate. The first volume of the report details numerous efforts emanating from Russia to influence the election. This volume includes a discussion of the Trump campaign's response to this activity, as well as our conclusion that there was insufficient evidence to charge a broader conspiracy. And in the second volume, the report describes the results and analysis of our obstruction of justice investigation involving the president. The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting Attorney General apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime. The introduction to the Volume 2 of our report explains that decision. It explains that under long-standing department policy, a president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional. Even if the charge is kept under seal and hidden from public view, that too is prohibited. The special counsel's office is part of the Department of Justice, and by regulation, it was bound by that department policy. Charging the president with a crime was therefore not an option we could consider. The department's written opinion explaining the policy makes several important points that further informed our handling of the obstruction investigation. Those points are summarized in our report, and I will describe two of them for you. First, the opinion explicitly permits the investigation of a sitting president because it is important to preserve evidence while memories are fresh and documents available. Among other things, that evidence could be used if there were co-conspirators who could be charged now. And second, the opinion says that the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system to formally accuse a sitting president of wrongdoing. And beyond department policy, we were guided by principles of fairness. It would be unfair to potentially accuse somebody of a crime when there can be no court resolution of the actual charge. So that was Justice Department policy. Those were the principles under which we operated, and from them we concluded that we would not reach a determination one way or the other about whether the president committed a crime. That is the office's final position, and we will not comment on any other conclusions or hypotheticals about the president. We conducted an independent criminal investigation and reported the results to the Attorney General, as required by department regulations. The Attorney General then concluded that it was appropriate to provide our report to Congress and to the American people. At one point in time, I requested that certain portions of the report be released. The Attorney General preferred to make the entire report public all at once, and we appreciate that the Attorney General made the report largely public, and I certainly do not question the Attorney General's good faith in that decision. Now, I hope and expect this to be the only time that I will speak to you in this manner. I am making that decision myself. No one has told me whether I can or should testify or speak further about this matter. There has been discussion about an appearance before Congress. Any testimony from this office would not go beyond our report. It contains our findings and analysis and the reasons for the decisions we made. We chose those words carefully, and the work speaks for itself. And the report is my testimony. I would not provide information beyond that which is already public in any appearance before Congress. In addition, access to our underlying work product is being decided in a process that does not involve our office. So beyond what I've said here today and what is contained in our written work, I do not believe it is appropriate for me to speak further about the investigation or to comment on the actions of the Justice Department or Congress. And it's for that reason I will not be taking questions today as well. Now, before I step away, I want to thank the attorneys, the FBI agents, the analysts, the professional staff who helped us conduct this investigation in a fair and independent manner. These individuals, who spent nearly 2 years with the special counsel's office, were of the highest integrity. And I will close by reiterating the central allegation of our indictments, that there were multiple, systematic efforts to interfere in our election. And that allegation deserves the attention of every American. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Special Counsel Robert Mueller speaking for the very first time publicly about his 2-year investigation and its conclusions regarding Russian interference in the 2016 election. He began and ended underscoring that there was a concerted attack on our election by Russian intelligence officers, the GRU, reiterating again that this was sweeping and systematic interference, saying that is where the focus should be. Notably, he did also explain where some of the questions have circulated lately, and that is around the obstruction of justice allegations and why he did not conclude, or in his words, did not exonerate the president on potential charges there. He said today it was not an option we could consider, really putting it in context to standing Department of Justice policy, saying that it was essentially what constrained them from doing so, because you cannot do so to a sitting president. Paula Reed, she's a lawyer. She has been a reporter for 2 years now on this. She's with us at the Justice Department. Paula, what stood out to you from what Mueller said today?
Margaret, this is so remarkable because this is the first time we've heard from the special counsel since he was appointed almost exactly 2 years ago. And we were told that the White House was notified that Mueller might make a statement, and a source suggested to me that this statement may be in lieu of future testimony, because efforts to arrange a way for him to answer questions before Congress have so far stalled. And you heard him in these remarks. He said that his testimony is his report, and if he was to answer any additional questions, they wouldn't go beyond the findings in his report. But what I thought was so significant is what specifically he chose to highlight in this approximately 8 minutes, specifically on obstruction of justice. While the president likes to say that the Mueller report was total exoneration for him and his campaign, the fact is Mueller did not exonerate the president. He said he could not exonerate the president and laid out a lot of evidence that suggests the president may have committed obstruction of justice. But in his remarks today, the special counsel made sure to wed the fact that he couldn't exonerate the president with the fact that there is a policy here at the Justice Department that Rod Rosenstein, who oversaw this investigation, also believed should be upheld, which is that you cannot criminally charge a president. And I think that's incredibly significant that he pointed out. He said, look, I didn't exonerate him. There's a policy. He didn't say he couldn't exonerate him based on the evidence. But the majority of Americans, according to CBS News polls, do think that Mueller should answer questions before Congress. So we'll see if this statement today means he doesn't have to testify, or if Democrats and others continue to push for him to answer questions before Congress.
Paula Reed at the Justice Department. We go now to Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett, who is standing by at the White House. Major, do we know if the president was watching this statement today?
Well, we certainly expect that he was. White House officials tell us they've certainly got notice yesterday that Bob Mueller would speak. Everyone here is curious about what he would say and how he would say it. And I think for the political atmosphere around this investigation, Margaret, the most important thing the special counsel just said was the Constitution requires a process other than the criminal justice system when you have this question of potential presidential wrongdoing, and the Justice Department forbids an indictment of a sitting president. Translated, what does that mean? What was the special counsel saying to Congress, particularly House Democrats? There is evidence. If you believe this is sufficient to impanel an impeachment committee, that is the constitutional remedy that I'm outlining when there is a Justice Department regulation forbidding an indictment of a sitting president. Essentially, Bob Mueller said there is a process. It's called impeachment. It's in Congress's hands now. This report will speak for itself. I can't amplify it. I will not amplify it in testimony to Congress. So now, House Democrats, it's up to you. What are you going to do with the evidence laid out in this report?
Major Garrett, thank you. I want to bring in now for some analysis CBS News legal analyst Jonathan Turley, who joins us now from Washington. He is a constitutional law professor at George Washington University. Robert Mueller essentially saying, I went as far as I could go here. Why did the Justice Department allow him? Why did they ask him to make this statement today?
Well, it doesn't sound like they asked him to make the statement, according to him. But I have to tell you, he's dead wrong on that DOJ memo. There's nothing in that memo that prevents him from reaching a conclusion. Attorney General Bill Barr and the Deputy Attorney General told him to reach a conclusion, that there was not such a policy. But this is not going to go...
Sorry, can you clarify there? What we heard the special counsel say was the standard that you cannot indict a sitting president.
Right, but then he extrapolated from that. That is clear. He's right about that. But he then extrapolated from that and said, if you can't indict a president, you shouldn't find evidence of a crime. Well, that's what a special counsel does. That's what he signed up to do. Also, there's nothing that says that he can simply refuse to answer questions before Congress. Congress has a good argument there. But one thing that came out of this conference is a direct contradiction now between Mueller and Attorney General Barr. Bill Barr said that Mueller told him and Rosenstein clearly and repeatedly that the DOJ memos that you can't indict a sitting president was not the reason they were not going to reach a conclusion on obstruction. He has now basically thrown down a very strong position contradicting that. He says that that was their reason, that was a well-studied and decision of his team that they could not find evidence of crimes even if they don't indict. So that contradiction is very significant because Bill Barr's recollection of that meeting is crystal clear. So the question now becomes Rod Rosenstein. He was in that meeting, and does he recall Mueller saying as well that he was not constrained by the DOJ memos?
Very quickly, Jonathan, does the Attorney General want the special counsel to testify before Congress?
I think he does. He has said that he is no objection to Mueller testifying, and that's the reason I find this all rather strange. The Attorney General says you can testify. Congress has an oversight, legitimate oversight interest in your testimony, and what Mueller is saying is that if you call me, I'm just going to read from the report.
All right, let's go to Capitol Hill now, where we find Nancy Cordes. As you heard Major Garrett refer to, their House Democrats have been fighting for weeks to get access to the entire Mueller report, including some classified and grand jury material. Nancy, this is not going to satisfy them.
No, but here's what Democrats who have been pushing for an impeachment inquiry to be opened will like from what they heard from Robert Mueller this morning. He said point blank that if he had confidence that the president did not commit a crime, he would have said so in his report. So those Democrats are going to take that as a sign that he thinks that there is some there that should perhaps be moved away from the Justice Department and into the congressional realm in the form of some kind of impeachment inquiry. They're also going to like the fact that he said, he didn't say point blank, Margaret, that he would not testify on Capitol Hill. He left that open. But here is what will probably discourage a lot of Democrats who have visions of the special counsel coming here to Capitol Hill, testifying in public and going into great detail about all these potential cases of obstruction of justice committed by the president. He said that if he does testify, he won't go any farther than he already has in the report.
Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill. This Friday on CBS This Morning, our Jan Crawford will have an exclusive interview with Attorney General William Barr. It will be his very first network TV interview since President Trump appointed Barr to lead the Justice Department. You can expect all of this will be put to questions at that time as well. Tune in to CBS This Morning then. And our coverage will continue throughout today on our 24-hour streaming network, CBSN. You can watch it at cbsnews.com or through our CBS News app. There will be much more ahead on this CBS station and tonight on the CBS Evening News. Many of you will now return to CBS This Morning. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Margaret Brennan, CBS News, New York.